Kim Young, WSEE, Newswatch 35.
From the studios of 35 WSEE, this is Campaign 2000 with Lisa Zampa and Don Schreiber.
Republican candidate George W. Bush comes back to Erie for his second visit of this very close race for president. Republicans say this will help win the state of Pennsylvania in the November election, just 12 days away. Good evening and welcome to Newswatch 35, First Edition, Special Campaign 2000 coverage. I'm Lisa Zampa.
And I'm Don Schreiber. Our Campaign 2000 coverage continues with the arrival of Texas Governor George W. Bush at North Coast Air. Now let's get right to the airport.
Newswatch 35's Kim Young is covering the event. Kim, how's the atmosphere out there?
Well, I tell you, Lisa, if you could be here, you could feel the energy in this room as thousands, literally thousands of Erie area Republicans have gathered here at North Coast Air, awaiting the arrival of Republican presidential candidate George W. Bush and General Colin Powell, and along with the two of those gentlemen will be our own Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge. Now, if you take a look around this room, the crowd here has been energized. Lisa, they've been out here since 2 o'clock this afternoon, and still thousands of them on the outside of this hangar here. And if we go out to Scott Bremner, we can see that Republican presidential candidate George W. Bush's plane has in fact landed. That's a 757 out there on the tarmac, and the Republican presidential candidate is expected to get off and then come inside this hangar and address this crowd that has been literally doing flips. There are cheerleaders here who have been doing flips and everything you can think of. I think we should go out to Scott and see what he can see out there from the Boeing 757 and the Republican presidential candidate. Scott?
Kim, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm having a little trouble hearing right now. I am in the middle of this crowd. It's difficult to see me because our cameras are, of course, focused on the plane as it lands. These folks out here weren't given some of the better seats that were reserved up front for some of the party faithful, but these are some of the folks that showed up because they wanted to show their support. The Republican Party has been working very hard to make sure that they didn't let Governor Bush down with a small crowd, and they've been working the phones and so forth, trying to get folks out, and it has worked. Unlike the first time that the governor was here, when it was a morning and noontime appearance, a lot of people were working, a lot of people were in school. This is a case where at 5:30, there's a lot of folks out of work but could get out early, a lot of folks are out of school, and so this is a full house here in anticipation not only of the governor, but also, as you said, Kim, retired General Colin Powell and also Governor Tom Ridge. The plane is just pulling up now as we speak. Maybe I'll kick it back to you and we can watch some of the festivities as the stairs are rolled up and the three people come out of the plane.
You bet, Scott. And I got to tell you something about that plane that I learned when I was out here this morning when they were getting this hangar ready. And that plane is the largest plane, the 757, the Bush Cheney 2000 plane that's just landed out there. And I can tell you that they didn't have the stairs to accommodate that plane at Erie. We don't get many 757s here. And so they brought in those air stairs. And if we can take a shot over there, you can see those air stairs. They're being taken to the plane right now. Those are not ours. We actually had to get those air stairs from Cleveland because we do not have planes that land at Erie International Airport of that size and particularly that height. That is one big plane. I should also tell you that a lot of volunteers went into this, making this event happen. Not only are there thousands of cheering party faithful out here on the floor, but there are also hundreds of volunteers who have helped put this together. This event has been in the works for at least the last 2 days, and John Meisner said that this is the event of all events, and what Republican Party Chair John Meisner is calling this is a victory rally. And if you were inside this room, you look around, these people are fired up. And John Meisner is at the podium now, and he is ready to introduce the Republican presidential candidate, George W. Bush. Scott, have you gotten a look? Are they ready to open the door out there?
Yeah, they're maneuvering the steps into place, Kim. After they do that, they'll be opening the door and these folks will be coming out. We did notice some white smoke coming out of one of the jet engines of that 757. I don't know if that means there was any trouble or if that's just naturally how that engine operates, but there was some thick white smoke that came out of one of the jet engines. I don't know if that means, as I said, if there was any trouble or not. But the plane has landed, and as you can see, they are just moving the stairs into place, and just moments from now, this crowd will get what they've been waiting hours for, which is the appearance of Texas Governor George Bush and retired Joint Chiefs of Staff Colin Powell. And of course, our own Governor Tom Ridge is set to be on board as well. This is part of a big push from the Republican Party, by the way. There are a lot of folks that are in this state or will soon be in this state, including former President George Bush, who is working in the Lehigh Valley. And there was also a number of other Republican, they call them surrogates. There's celebrities and so forth that move around the state. It is very clear that this is a key state for the Republicans and for the Democrats. In fact, there was a reporter from the Buffalo Morning News that interviewed me a little bit earlier. He's in town because in Buffalo there's very little ad campaign spending because it's just being given up as a Democratic area, and so that it's not a battleground up there. It is certainly a battleground here, and so both sides seem to be willing to pull out all the stops to make sure that their candidate is elected, and what that means for the Republicans is bringing out what they consider to be some of the biggest guns that they have in this country in Texas Governor George Bush and retired General Colin Powell. I'm sure it's just going to be a couple of minutes now, Kim, until they open the door and these folks come out.
Right, and I just wanted to add something to what you were saying, Scott. You know, when you do something like this, I was talking to John Meisner, the Republican Party chair here in Erie County earlier, and he says what this does for the local Republican base is just re-energize what they've already been feeling. And this really, what they're hoping is that people who are watching this, and you talk about Pennsylvania being one of those critical states, what John Meisner said is he's hoping that people who see this, who witness that the Republican presidential candidate comes here more than once, will actually be swayed. Those undecided, those very critical undecided voters will see just how much this area matters in the whole scheme of things, and that they will be swayed by Republican presidential candidate George Bush's visit to Erie, not once, but twice. And of course, as I'm standing in here, the crowd is just, you can feel actually this momentum building in here. I mean, you can actually just feel the energy. It kind of sweeps you away as these people, like you said, Scott, get ready for what they have been waiting for all day. Some of these people have been out here 3-4 hours, some of them even longer, especially the volunteers. And we talk about how you get ready for something like this. I should have mentioned also the secret security that is incredible. There are hundreds of secret security agents who are out here making sure that this is a safe, secure area for the Republican presidential candidate and General Colin Powell, as well as Governor Tom Ridge, who travels with his own contingent of Secret Service. So there is a lot of planning and a lot of people that actually go into making this a very big success. Scott, from where I'm at, I can see the door opening of the plane. I'm assuming he's getting ready to come out.
Yeah, there's some folks down at the bottom of the steps waiting to greet them. This should happen almost at any moment, and you're going to hear a pretty good-sized scream from where I'm standing. So the point may come where I'll have difficulty hearing. It's already starting right now. In fact, a lot of folks here have their kids on their shoulders, trying to give them a glimpse. And here come some of the advanced folks now. And the appearance these folks have been waiting for are obviously just moments away. There will be some press folks, I'm sure, that will get off first, some advanced crew and staff members. A lot of those folks like to get in place so that they can take pictures of the candidate getting off the plane. And of course, the candidate obliges them because that's more publicity for his campaign. But as you see, some of the national press, this is CBS and NBC and ABC and CNN and a whole host of other folks that are covering the Texas
Scott, they actually,
basis. I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
You know, I was going to ask you, the national media, I think people are interested to know that, they actually travel with the candidate on his plane. We were thinking there might be a separate plane for the press corps, but they actually travel on the 757.
Yeah, that's a very big plane, so obviously there's enough room on one plane, and it is probably cost effective as opposed to taking two 727s. They take one 757.
Right, and that's just exactly what John Meisner is talking about, Scott. He's now talking about NBC and CNN and CBS and ABC and, of course, the National Press Corps that are traveling with the candidate and how important they are, because everybody knows that that is a very important factor, how much coverage these candidates get. And John Meisner and I were talking about that beforehand, and it's a very important fact that they get on television. And I should also tell you that they leave nothing to chance. I was out here talking with some of the volunteers from this campaign, and I was trying to interview one of the volunteers, a young woman who came here from Massachusetts, who drove all the way, took time off from work, felt committed enough to be with this candidate, and she was not allowed to talk to me. So they very much carefully plan and control everything so that there is nothing left to chance. And that's exactly what John Meisner is talking about when he talks about the media coverage, that how important this truly is, that we're here, the local media, and certainly the National Press Corps that is getting off the plane. And Scott, I'm standing on my tiptoes and trying to see, but you have a better vantage point. Is that the entire press corps I see getting off the plane still?
Yeah, there's probably 100 members of the press, I would say, at least getting off the plane, which shows you that there's 2 weeks left in a national campaign and some of the interests that are going on here. There's also a number of satellite trucks that are here. There's a couple of different organizations who are carrying the event live or who are recording it and then sending it by satellite to be used across the country this evening.
And you can hear the bands in the background inside here. There are lots of bands here, not only...
Here we go, Kim.
All right, go ahead, Scott. Yeah, there is. To a younger audience. He talked about the tax plan that he has, that how they're deserving of their own money to do with as they will. He also talked about how important it is to rebuild the military, and that theme certainly resonated with General Colin Powell as he was introducing Governor Bush, talking about how important it is to give the GIs and the troops the things that they need, and certainly that really was a big hit with this crowd here. He also, one of the themes that's come out of the debate is using our troops as nation builders. He talked about how the Clinton administration has used troops as nation builders, and that's just plain wrong. He said a Bush administration will not do that. He also alluded to the dignity in the White House and talked about how he will restore dignity to the White House. And so, talking with a lot of people as they were watching the speech, they're telling me that they really feel that they're re-energized, that they're going to go out and work for the governor and make sure that Pennsylvania tips in the Bush column on Election Day. And I know Scott is out there watching the governor as he's departing and getting ready to go on the tarmac. Scott, you have some reaction from the folks outside and what they're talking about?
Yeah, obviously, Kim, this was a big moment for them. They waited a long time to get an opportunity to see these 3 men, and they were obviously energized from what they heard. We thought we might ask a folk or two in the crowd just what they thought. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Can I ask your name and where you're from?
I'm Carla Consul. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Tell me a little bit about what you thought.
I thought Governor Bush did a good job trying to share with us at this time that, number one, he asked for the vote of the American people, and that he definitely wants to share with us that he wants to be a leader of a nation, and that he wants to make sure that he can do the best interest for all of us in reference to tax cuts and as far as being a nation leader.
There's a lot of talk about right now not going after the undecided votes so much because those folks are undecided, but really energizing your base. And the key is which candidate gets their faithful out more. Do you buy that? And what do you think this crowd says about his ability to do that in northwestern Pennsylvania?
Well, I think we did a real good job getting out here to Pennsylvania today. I think you definitely stress the point that if you're undecided, get out there and talk to these undecided people and see what you can do to help him win his election.
See a lot of working ahead in the next 10 days in this group as they go out and talk to folks and do their best to try to get this guy elected president?
Yes, I do, but at the same time, I think that it can make a difference. Every vote can make a difference.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one of the many comments out here in this crowd, Kim. There's a lot of folks, as we said, that were very energized by this and will take that message out in the next 10 to 12 days trying to get George Bush elected president.
Right, and Scott, as we're looking inside, we're still seeing the governor make his way through this mob of people, and you see Secret Service agents around him and making sure that he can get out of here safely, and he's just shaking as many hands as he can. And General Colin Powell, a lot of these people said that they were very excited that General Colin Powell was here. Of course, they're excited over their candidate, but one person told me that that was just really the icing on the cake for them, that General Colin Powell was here. And of course, Governor Tom Ridge certainly always energizes the citizenry here in Erie. And that's what they're talking about, Scott, in here, about how much this meant to them. Again, we talk about Governor Bush being here once before and how much this meant to them that he would come here again. The governor also talked about how important it is for these people to reach across the political divide, he said, reach out to the Democratic constituency here and try to encourage them. He said those Democrats who have an open mind or perhaps those people who are independent, and reach out to them and encourage them to listen to the governor's message. He actually took a family here, the Hicksonbaugh family, and he talked about what his tax plan would do for them. And he specifically said that they would get over $2,500 in tax relief under Governor Bush's plan. And then he said that under Al Gore's targeted tax plan, they would get no relief. And so he made that a very specific reference to a family here in Erie that he had targeted. He also talked about economic growth, and he attributed the economic growth that we're seeing now to the Reagan era of the 1980s and not necessarily the Clinton-Gore administration. But Scott, you know what? I didn't hear a whole lot of attacks, if you will, on President Gore. They had said earlier in the day in Pittsburgh he was a little more sharp-tongued, if you will, and taking some sharper shots at the Democratic candidate. But here I didn't really hear any of that, and it was more of a positive message, if you will. And Scott, I'm guessing that you're probably seeing him now because I can't see him anymore.
Yeah, Kim, he's in the business right now of picking up some babies and give them the old kiss. That's a trick as old as politics, I think, to say hi to the kids. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, he did mention gargantuan politics in Washington and made references to the fact that he was faithful to his wife and that he put family and faith first, which is, of course, an indirect jab at the current administration. But I'd have to say with you, yes. And the only other thing I would probably mention in comparing this rally to the one held in Erie 2 months ago is that this is a much more energized feel. This is a guy that clearly knows that the race is on the line and that there's only 2 weeks left. So it was a more forceful appearance, I would say, by him. He seemed to be more aggressive, at least in terms of getting the message out. His voice was louder, he was more animated, he moved around more, obviously. He's been at it for 2 months, so he's probably a lot more practiced. But it seemed clear that this is a campaign that clearly knows that it's win or lose in the next 10, 12 days, and so it's time to pull out all the stops and really go for it.
All right. We are reporting live here as from the rally for Republican presidential candidate George W. Bush as he makes his way now onto the tarmac and onto his 757 and onto his next stop. I saw one of the national correspondents saying, I have to leave, we have to catch a plane, and that's exactly what they're doing. Reporting live, we're going to send it back to you in the studio, Lisa and Dawn, for the rest of the day's news.
From the studios of 35 WSEE, this is Campaign 2000 with Lisa Zampa and Don Schreiber.
Well, good evening once again, everyone. And the only thing I can say is that Kim and Scott did a fantastic job out there.
Fantastic job. We're very proud to be a part of the coverage that we just had. And now George W. Bush, Tom Ridge, and General Colin Powell are off to Toledo, Ohio to do it all again with another rally tonight. Absolutely. And this rally, as Scott said, the earlier rally, many fewer people there before. They were packed. I noticed there were people from several counties other than Erie County that were there, if you notice the placards in the background. So apparently the Republicans bust them in to make this rally a good one, and it was. It was energetic. Governor Bush saying the difference in these two campaigns, Gore trusts the government, Bush trusts the people. Yeah. And that certainly got the cheers going out on the hangar there.
Another day, and Lisa and Tony are calmly talking to Kim Young about worried fruit farmers who say it got too warm too soon. But farmers aren't the only ones worried about things heating up. Even while you were watching Newswatch 35 First Edition, crews were still scrambling to put together the top 6 o'clock stories of the day, making sure the tapes were finished and in the right order, making sure the facts were as up-to-date as possible. Lisa and Tony make their way onto the set every day shortly before 5:30. Things are cramped these days because a new set is being built. Andy Quinn tonight must direct both shows because the staff is short-handed. He, Tony, and Lisa must all start the hour-long show knowing that some of the stories are still not finished, but they trust the staff that they will be. This happens all the time. Planning for 6 o'clock actually begins at 9 a.m. when the day crew sits down for the morning meeting. It's decided here that Kim Young would talk to farmers, Carol Pella would look into Mill Creek school taxes, and I would tell you about them.
Why don't you go ahead and do it?
The next step for the reporters is often the phones, like Dave Belmondo setting up his next Route 35.
It's not as important as sitting down with you and talking to you about it.
3018.
Meanwhile, producer Andrea Verosco and anchor Lisa Zampa begin putting together the noon show, deciding what goes where on a special computer program that tracks story length and commercial time. Don't worry, producers do that a lot. It's decided that Kim Young and the farmers would be live at noon. For photographer John Hoffman, that means rolling out a live truck to a West County orchard and setting up for Kim's interview with grower John Mason, a story electronically beamed to the station.
Stand by, John. And you're on.
Mother Nature has area fruit farmers biting their nails. I'm Kim Young. Coming up, I'll tell you why.
Carol Pella and photographer Dave Hetrick are still on the Mill Creek tax story, asking voters what they think. By now, photographer John Hoffman has finished his live shot and now joins afternoon reporter Tricia Rutherford for a tour of the Boston store renovations.
No, and that's why he's saying.
Okay, but the afternoon news meeting. So far, no fire or accident has happened to change the plans. Wednesday's schedule is discussed. So far, so good. Between 3:30 and 5:30, it's crunch time. Reporters gather last bits of information to write the stories. Photographers hit the edit booths to put the video together. The producers sweat the details, spelling, national stories, late updates. It's here the stress can go up, the language can go downhill. We were lucky today. Any major story would have thrown all those plans out the window. But that hasn't happened today, so far. Scott Bremner, Newswatch 35.
You just lost $1,000 an acre. If you have 100 acres, it's $100,000.